Hi, it's Alaska Granny. Are you working on your food storage and you're wondering what area of food you might want to prep next? Well, think about the area of grains. There's so much in the news about the price of fuel going up, which means farmers can't work as well. There is shortage of fertilizer. The grain harvests in Ukraine and Russia are severely threatened and no longer available. And many countries are simply not self-sustaining with their grains. And the ones who do have grain, many of them are no longer exporting grains, and countries who don't have enough are not able to get the grains that they want. Not only is there a current shortage, but going forward it looks like it's going to be worse because so many fewer crops are being planted and they keep talking about all the problems with the weather. And so it's a great time to stock up on grains while they're still readily available. There are many ways to purchase grains and many ways to store them. There isn't one right grain or one right way to store it. It's choose the foods that you want and store them the best that you can. The more airtight you can store them in a cool, dark, dry place, the longer they're going to last. Just do the best you can. If you don't have all the supplies, maybe you can store it better later. But right now, stock up on the food so that you'll have it. A top grain that I like to store is oatmeal. I like to eat it for breakfast. You don't even have to cook it. You can soak it and make overnight oats. You can grind it up and make oat flour. You can add it into meatloaf to extend it further. There are so many ways that you can use oatmeal. I like to buy it from the LDS Church. It comes in a number 10 can. It's sealed to last for 30 years and it's very top quality. I also buy it in containers at the store and then I repackage it into jars because it needs to be stored in an airtight container. You can't continue to store oatmeal in the paper carton because it's not only going to get stale, but bugs can get in it, rodents can chew on the package, things can spill and get into it. So you want to put it into an airtight container. The next grain that I store the most is probably rice. Rice is one of the most versatile foods that you can find. It's easy to prepare. It's eaten all over the world, and when you combine rice with beans, you have a complete protein. I have also purchased rice from the LDS or the Mormon Church. It comes in the number 10 cans. It's already sealed to last for at least 30 years. Their foods are very inexpensive, they're top quality, but it's not the only way you can buy it, but it's very convenient. And if you do want to buy the foods from the LDS Church, I'll put a link to the website down below, and know that when you're buying it, you're buying a box of 6. The price is for 6 of these cans, not just one like you see when you go to other sites and other grocery stores. Those are for per can. The ones on the LDS are for 6 cans. I also buy rice in bags. I store it in jars. I store it in buckets. I add oxygen absorbers, and sometimes I use the Food Saver jar lid attachment if you have one of those, and you can seal up your jars. Another food I like to buy in the number 10 cans is flour. It comes already sealed for a long-lasting shelf life. I do buy bags of flour also, but then you have to seal those up, and sometimes it's harder to get those to seal up to last as long as this one is already professionally prepared to last longer. And the LDS flour is very good. At the beginning of the pandemic, when we couldn't get regular flour, we opened a can and it smelled a little like a tin can, but we left it to air out for just a short period of time, and then it was just as nice as fresh flour. If you can find flour that's already stored to last, that's the easiest way ever to make sure that you're going to have it long lasting. I made a video about how much flour to store if you were going to be baking bread. I'll put a link to that video if you want to know how much flour you need to store to bake your own bread. If you can't get any at the store, then you can watch that video and it can help teach you a little bit of that information. My next favorite grain is pastas. You can get them in all different shapes. I buy them and sometimes I seal them in a jar. I use the Food Saver vacuum sealer, or you can just tighten the lid. You don't have to do anything else because you've sealed out the air. And I've had pasta that I have stored that's lasted for decades and it's always been fine. Another thing that I did recently was I bought this banker's box at Walmart, and you can see it has a latch. It's not completely airtight, but the lid comes over about an inch and it helps keep the air out. And then I've been able to store lots of pasta in here. On top I have egg noodles because those are not going to last long term, so I put them on top so that I remember to use them sooner rather than later. They have eggs in them, and so the eggs will spoil. So you need to use your egg noodles within maybe a year or two. They're not going to store as long as pasta. I also purchased some bay leaves. I need to open these up and put them around in the flour, the pastas, the grains, because it will help repel bugs. Then I use the vacuum sealer to seal up the pasta. I put it into the Food Saver bags. These are very sturdy bags, they're airtight, and I can put them into this container so they're not going to get punctured or chewed on by anything. The plastic container is going to help these last longer, just as if you put them into a 5-gallon bucket. Except the long pastas don't fit in a 5-gallon bucket, but they fit perfectly in here. Get a variety of shapes, but pay attention to how much more space the shapes take up than, say, just a spaghetti noodle. I have 2 pounds of pasta spaghetti noodles in here, and this is 1 pound of penne. You can see because of the shape of it, it takes up far more space. If space is an issue for your food storage, then try to get foods that take up the least amount of space. I can load these in, push down the lid, and seal it, and it's going to help my food last longer. I decided I like this so much, I went back and bought a few more of these, and then I used them to store some other foods like Knorr pasta and rice sides, and some Idaho and mashed potatoes. This has just been a really handy, stackable, space-saving, airtight container to store some of my extra food. It's just getting harder and harder to figure out where to put everything, and it's harder to get some of the supplies to store the foods. Another grain to think about is barley. Barley is great. You can add it into soups and stews. You can cook it up and serve it like a hot breakfast. There's lots of things that you can do with barley. So if it's a grain that you like, get some and store it in an airtight container. Popcorn. Popcorn is great. You can grind it up if you want and make it into flour. You can make popcorn. How easy is that? It's a delicious, easy way to have extra grain on hand, and the popcorn is going to last nearly forever. You want to make sure that you store it correctly. There's a little tiny drop of moisture inside each kernel, and then when it heats up, boom, that's what makes it pop. Store your popcorn airtight so that that little kernel doesn't dry up. But if it does, you can still grind it up and use it to make cornmeal. Quinoa is another great grain to have on hand. I just shoved the bag inside the jar. It gives it an extra layer of protection, and then there's a lot of interesting information on this bag, so I wanted to be able to read that and refer to it when I wanted to cook some of my quinoa. If gluten sensitivities are a concern for your diet, then you can look at the Bob's Red Mill. I picked up the one-on-one flour. It's a gluten-free flour replacement, and the one-on-one you can use substituted exactly as is into your recipes for banana bread or whatever you want to make. And you don't have to try to convert it like many of the other types of gluten-free flours. The Bob's Red Mill one-on-one, you can just measure it the same. Another item I like from Bob's Red Mill is the egg replacer. It's not eggs, it's made out of potatoes, tapioca, and flour, but you use it just like you would an egg. You stir it into your recipe to replace the actual farm eggs. This has been hard to find. When I originally bought it, like at Fred Meyer's, it was about $3.79, and now I can't find it in the store. And when I looked at Bob's Red Mill to order directly from them, it was about $6. So I looked on Amazon and it was nearly $10. This is a great product for baking. It has the equivalent of 34 eggs in it. And if you can look around and find it for around the $3.79, you should definitely pick it up. You can't get 34 eggs for $3.79. The cost of eggs is just rising ridiculously. And so that's another reason you might want to have this on hand to go with your other baking supplies. And if you're planning on baking with some of these, make sure you stock up on baking powder, baking soda, salt, and yeast. Then you can also look at some of the products that you would use that would be packages of foods that include grains that you enjoy eating. If you like grits, get a box of them, but don't store them in the box, then put them into an airtight container. I store the grits in a jar, and then be sure you label whatever you put into a jar and that you tape the directions on it if you want to be able to refer to it quickly when you pull it out of your pantry and you want to prepare it. Another cereal you might consider looking for, if you like it, is cream of wheat. If you like making pancakes, it's great to have the Just Add Water pancake mix. I usually buy the big bags from Krusteaz and I put those in an airtight container. And then I've also found some of these at the Dollar Tree, and these are just the right size that you can use them to bake a loaf of bread. With a pancake mix, a beer, and some butter, you can make a nice full loaf of bread. I'll put a link to that video in case you're wondering on how to make pancake mix into bread. Rice is great, but you may not always have the time, or maybe your power goes out. You can just boil a little bit of water and put it over minute rice, and your food is ready faster and you don't need as much power to get it cooking. Plus, if you're going camping, it's nice to have some rice along and you want to maybe make a campfire meal, and you can add some of this into your foil packets. Think about foods like stovetop stuffing, hamburger helper, that you would add other ingredients, but they're full of grains to help make a bigger, better meal. I also have some instant oatmeal packets. I put those into an airtight container. These are great. You can just pull one out, add a little boiling water, and it's ready to go. These are also nice if you're going camping or you want to put something in your bug-out bag. Look for some of the easy to just add water or just a barely any cooking, or even just open and eat things that include grains. It's very important that we keep prepping, we keep gathering food for our long-term prepper pantry food stockpile, that you buy foods that you know how to use, that you're willing to eat. Then you need to prepare them, rotate them, and replace them. If you don't have an ample supply of foods right now, when you go to the store, if you buy one, then instead buy two. You have one that you might want to use and one to put in your pantry. Then when you finish one, then you buy another one, or if you want to build your stockpile, you would buy two. So then you're buying foods today when they're probably going to cost less than in the future. And so then you're stockpiling foods and saving money, because the foods that you're going to have in your pantry you can take and use, and then when you replace them, that will probably be at a higher price. So prepping is really sensible, not because we think it's SHTF or Armageddon or the end of the world as we know it. We know that there are shortages. We also know that there are winter storms. There are summer hurricanes and tornadoes. There are times when we might get sick, or we just don't want to go to the store. If you have a nice amount of food in your pantry, you don't need to go to the store if you don't want to, or it isn't safe because of some crazy event that's going on. You have the choice to stay home, enjoy your time with your family, put a meal on the table, and you don't have the stress and the pressure of what am I going to make for dinner. You're going to have options. Prepping means preparing your family to have life run as smoothly as possible. We want every day to be the best it can be for ourselves and our family, and having plenty of food on hand is one way to make sure that that happens. If you enjoyed my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might like it. Please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.